Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. President Tinubu assents to the 2026 appropriation bill of 68.32 trillion naira and approved the extension of 2025 budget implementation from March 31st, 2026 to June 30th, 2026. IMF warns Africa's recovery is threatened by rising Middle East tensions, urging strong policy action, while Nigeria's Finance Minister Wale Edun says buffers are being built against shocks. The Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution calls for urgent adoption of a unified, integrated and credible national peace policy, warning fragmented efforts cause waste and community exclusion. And Iran's foreign minister declares the Strait of Hormuz completely open to all commercial vessels for the remaining ceasefire period, easing maritime restrictions under coordinated routing arrangements. And on sports, Manchester City face leaders Arsenal in a potential Premier League title decider at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday.
On business news, the central bank and financial market dealers unveil new transaction-based benchmark to boost transparency and policy implementation in the money ecosystem.
And from the nation's capital, NSIB Director General Captain Alex Bade says recurring bird strikes in Nigeria's aviation sector are due to natural factors, while efforts continue with FAN to manage risks.
President Bola Tinubu has signed the 2026 appropriation bill into law, setting the total expenditure at 68.32 trillion naira. Now, the budget allocates 15.8 trillion naira for debt service, 15.4 trillion naira for recurrent spending, and 32.2 trillion naira for capital projects, alongside 4.8 trillion naira in statutory transfers. Now, President Tinubu also extended the implementation period for the 2025 budget's capital component to June the 30th, 2026, to allow completion of ongoing projects. The government says the move will improve execution of key infrastructure and development programs as the 2026 fiscal year begins in the month of April. Outside our shores, in the meantime, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, is warning that Africa's economic recovery is at risk. The director in charge of the African department at the fund, Mr. Selassie Abebe, says escalating tensions in the Middle East is a threat, but policies backed with action can help change the narrative. However, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, says the federal government is not laying low on the matter, but is building buffers against shocks. Now, our correspondent, Sarah Achimugu, who covered the session at the spring meetings, reports.
It's the turn of the African department to brief on the state of the economy in the region, and the director of the department gives an analysis of the year 2025, which was marked by exchange rate reforms, subsidy removals, and tighter monetary policy.
And more importantly, sound.
However, 2026 begins with pressures on the gains.
The war in the Middle East is a major new external shock. Oil, gas, and fertilizer prices have surged. Shipping costs have risen. Trade with Gulf partners has been disrupted. Tourism and remittances are being squeezed. Financial conditions have tightened, particularly for fuel importing countries. We have accordingly revised our growth forecast down to 4.3% in 2026, some 0.3 percentage points below our pre-war projection, and are expecting median inflation to rise to around 5% by the end of the year.
The city is at a briefing of ministers of finance for Africa. Nigeria's Minister of Finance and his colleagues highlight issues that are top on their agenda.
We are at the heart of multilateral institutions, and they are looking keenly at the response of those institutions to helping, in particular, the countries hardest hit, the countries less resilient and able to cope, and they fall largely and squarely within a quadrant where the African countries are the majority by far.
Now that we have this tool, we have around 28 countries actually who joined this platform. If we all join this platform, the countries who face these issues of debt, then we will be more power to advocate, to make the plea, to manage this issue of debt. So this is the first thing. Free trade, how to improve infrastructure.
Mostly women.
The IMF says 2025 was a year of hard-won stability, and 2026 will test whether governments can defend those gains. For sub-Saharan Africa and indeed Nigeria, the message is disciplined policy at home and fast support from abroad will determine what happens next. From the World Bank IMF spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
Back home, the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution says the time for a unified, integrated and credible national peace policy is now, warning that fragmented peace-building efforts have led to duplication, wastage of resources and communities falling through the gaps. The Director General of the Institute, Mr. Joseph Ochogu, stated this at the second high-level expert dialogue on the draft national peace policy in Abuja. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
Checking to ensure that the
stakeholders from government, security agencies, civil society and development partners gathered in Abuja for the second high-level expert dialogue aimed at reviewing and strengthening the draft national peace policy.
To orient also as us.
In attendance are representatives of federal and state MPAs, members of the National Assembly, traditional and faith leaders, academics, as well as development partners, including the Office of Strategic Preparedness and Resilience and Triple Peace Africa. The dialogue seeks to harmonize Nigeria's multiple peace and security interventions under a single coordinated framework that will ensure evidence-based policy making, sustainable financing, and clear institutional roles.
This second high-level expert dialogue is not the end of a process. It is a critical milestone in the journey towards full operationalization of the NPP. We are here to sharpen the existing drafts, working towards a newer draft that resonates more with current dynamics and reality, and resolve outstanding gaps, define institutional roles, propose sustainable financing mechanism, and above all, to generate the political will.
Other stakeholders of the event harped on the necessity and urgency of the national peace policy.
This second expert dialogue is one of a series of consultative engagements designed to bring together experts from across various dimensions of the peace-building sector to deliberate and achieve consensus on the things that we need to add, impute, adapt, and adopt.
An overarching peace policy for the entire country, whether there are elections or not, I think is very important, especially for the sub-national, states to draw from, something they can get as a guideline.
This technical session let the spirit of love for humanity, the spirit of love for God and creations of God come back to the hearts of every man, woman, and child in Nigeria.
Please, a round of applause to
stakeholders and participants express optimism that the outcome of the dialogue will produce a refined, implementable national peace policy capable of strengthening early warning systems, enhancing coordination, and positioning Nigeria as a leader in peace building across the region. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
As the conversations on the roles of ethnic monarchs continue to dominate public discourse, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is pushing for the establishment of a National Traditional Rulers Forum as part of efforts to promote peace, unity, and national development across the country. The national president of the institute, Mr. Ike Neliaku, made these suggestions during a strategic meeting with traditional rulers in Kaduna State.
The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is engaging in this strategic meeting with traditional rulers as part of activities leading up to the 2026 NIPR Week.
The loudest applause we could muster.
The meeting is aimed at strengthening grassroots peace building. The engagement, which brings together prominent royal fathers from across Kaduna State, focusing on strengthening collaboration between public relations professionals and traditional institutions, particularly in the areas of community engagement, peace building, and information dissemination.
The effective development intermediaries, maintaining the flow of resources, information, and legitimacy between formal institutions and local populations.
Under the theme, the Kaduna Peace Model, Traditional Leadership and National Stability, the issue of assigning constitutional roles to traditional rulers for national security and development takes center stage.
To build peace must be a deliberate and collective responsibility. It has to be deliberate. You have to desire to build peace. And when you desire it, you then have to make it a collective responsibility.
On his part, the Emir of Zozo is lamenting the inability of the government to integrate traditional institutions into formal roles that could significantly improve peace and early conflict detection.
Everything that needs to be done about the role and function of the traditional institutions, I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing that is left, untouched or undone. So the only thing is commitment and also the will, to do the needful.
For the Kaduna State government, the meeting is critical as the administration of Governor Ubasani pledges to continue to provide traditional rulers with the necessary support to function effectively.
They are competent to handle security issues. What they need is support and funding from where? The government. It's not the issue of having forum discussions, it's action.
The Kaduna engagement with traditional rulers underscores growing recognition of the importance of the institution in bridging communication gaps and supporting policy implementation at the grassroots level.
Royal Ambassador of the World Public Relations Forum.
Several civil society groups in Abuja have continued to rally support for the chairman of INEC amidst calls for his resignation by opposition political parties. While members of the African Democratic Congress are leading the call for the removal of the INEC chairman, Professor Josh Amokwito, following their delisting from the website of the Electoral umpire, the civil society groups insist that the demand for the removal of Professor Amokwito is uncalled for, as his decision is in line with the electoral laws.
Tension continues to build around the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja, as various groups lead demonstrations for and against the leadership of the electoral umpire. These protests followed the decision of INEC to de-recognize any of the leadership of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, citing existing court cases. The development, which sparked public outrage among opposition political parties, is also the center of conversation as ADC members in the Federal Capital Territory meet.
When you have the INEC chairman that's supposed to be neutral in his decision making, and he refused to do that, the only thing that you are sure of, that you are not sure that the election will be free and fair. And so it will be onerous to the person in question to quickly resign his position. The truth is clear. Credible elections bring incredible leadership. Credible leadership bring in good governance, and that is where the obedient movement stands. We want credible elections that can usher in credible government and good governance in Nigeria.
All right. Let's sit down, take this. However, several civil society groups continue to rally support for the electoral umpire, calling for the support of INEC and its reforms.
We commend the chairman for his ongoing reforms and administrative policies aimed at strengthening electoral integrity, institutional transparency, and public trust in the Nigerian democratic process. His commitment in upholding the rule of law, particularly in respecting and obeying court orders, concerning sensitive matters such as the PDP crisis and the ADC crisis, reflects a deep regard for constitutionalism and democratic governance. We therefore urge Nigerians to remain steadfast in supporting institutional reforms to resist distraction from political actors and agents of misinformation.
The electoral umpire is key to the success of the 2027 general election, and political parties say the credibility of the exercise depends largely on the leadership of the commission.
In part two, after the break, stakeholders in education and child protection raise fresh concerns over rising bullying in Nigerian schools, describing it as a serious threat to students' safety, dignity, and overall development. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu assents to the 2026 appropriation bill of 68.32 trillion naira and approves extension of 2025 budget implementation from March 31st to June the 30th this year. IMF warns Africa's recovery is threatened by rising Middle East tensions, urging strong policy action, while Nigeria's finance minister says buffers are being built against shocks. Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution calls for urgent adoption of a unified, integrated and credible national peace policy, warning fragmented efforts cause waste and community exclusion. And Iran's foreign minister declares the Strait of Hormuz completely open to all commercial vessels for the remaining ceasefire period, easing maritime restrictions under coordinated routing arrangements. Talk some politics now. A lawmaker in the House of Representatives representing Yagba Federal Constituency, Honorable Leke Abejide, who was elected on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, has described his expulsion from the party by the David Mark National Working Committee as illegal, contempt of court, and invalid. Mr. Abejide made the declaration at a news conference in Abuja, insisting that only the court will have the final say on the issues of leadership in the party. The National Convention held at the weekend by the David Mark ADC announced the suspension of Mr. Abejide and Nafiu Bala, an action the federal lawmaker condemns.
Without prejudice to the ongoing matters in courts, which is sub judice, I want to, on behalf of our national chairman and authentic ADC members across the country, put the record straight in order to put an end to all the misinformation. We want to let the party members and the general public know that the Suya Convention that ADC Coalition held on the 14th of April 2026 at an event center in Abuja is null and void, as it is against the law of the land, both the Electoral Act 2026 and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. On the purported suspension of me, Right Honorable Leke Abejide and Honorable Nafiu Bala from ADC, I see it as a laughable phenomenon from an illegal group of people who came to destroy African Democratic Party, their Congress, same way they destroyed all the political parties that they existed from. My so-called suspension and that of Honorable Nafiu Bala Gombe is a contempt of courts orders of both Court of Appeal and Federal High Court. And as such, I have briefed my lawyers on possible litigation, but there's no point going to court with them, because once you do that, you are only trying to give them legality.
Chairman of the Senate Committee on Colleges of Agriculture and Allied Institutions, Sharafuddin Ali, has declared his intention to contest the Oyo State governorship election on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC, come 2027. The announcement, made before supporters from all 33 local government areas of the state, follows a series of consultations with party leaders and key stakeholders within the APC.
The football pitch of the divisional police officer in Yemetu, Ibadan, was filled to capacity with APC supporters from all 33 local government areas of Oyo State. The wait is over. Senator Sharafuddin Ali officially declared his intention to contest the APC governorship tickets for your state ahead of 2027. Senator Ali says his ambition is driven by a vision of integrity, compassion, accountability, and balanced development across the state.
I will ensure, as your governor in Oyo State, that government returns to the people. My vision is clear: to build an Oyo State that is prosperous, secure, and inclusive, where no one is left behind. This vision rests on pillars that will define our path: education, security, healthcare, infrastructure, roads that connect not just our towns, but our arts and our harvests to the market.
Nítorí ọ̀gá wa, Senator Barrister Sharafuddin Abiodun Ali.
Party leaders say the renewed unity within the APC signals strong momentum, expressing confidence in reclaiming power from the PDP.
I know people are tired. They want to be with the party that is at the center, the party that has stabilized the exchange rate of Nigeria, that eliminated the issue of subsidy, that is fighting insecurity, and so people want to be at the center.
The declaration is a statement that Oyo State APC has now resurrected, so to say. And we've been out of government for about 8 years. But anybody who watched this declaration today will know that APC is no longer a pushover party and that we are coming into the next election to win.
With this declaration, political activities within the APC and other parties in Oyo State are expected to intensify. Dignitaries at the event included former Deputy Governor Iola Oladokun, Senator Ayo Adeseun, Honorable Fatai Bikunle, and other party stakeholders.
Still talking politics, national leader of the Abdurrahman Mohammed-led People's Democratic Party and FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has met with members of the party's National Working Committee, the NWC. Well, he says the meeting is aimed at reassuring the committee of its full support as the party now begins preparations for next year's general elections. Mr. Wike is also urging the NWC to develop effective programs that will strengthen the party's chances at the polls and keep it politically relevant.
My coming here this morning is to reassure you of my support to members of the National Working Committee. Yes, election has been held. After election, you have started. You need the support of every member of the party, morally and otherwise. And so I've come here to pledge my support and my loyalty to all of you. Yes, we have crisis, and we have almost come out of the crisis. It's not going to be easy, but it requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of sacrifice for you to move the party forward and continue to bring up programs that will make the party to continue to be popular. Yes, today we are not in government, but this is the major opposition party as far as this country is concerned. You cannot become an opposition party without winning the election. No, you cannot become an opposition party. So those who say that they are leading opposition, they've never contested any election. The one they contested is the Abuja area council, and they could not get one councillor. So how can they now be leading opposition party? I also want to urge you to do everything you can. All our members who may have defended thinking that the party will no longer come back. Most of them are still having that interest. Make sure you interact with them, send their powerful team to talk to them. Most of them are afraid whether they will get tickets or not.
Away from politics, stakeholders in education and child protection sectors have raised fresh concerns over the rising incidences of bullying in Nigerian schools, describing it as a threat to the safety, dignity and development of young people. At the consultative dialogue convened in Abuja to address the menace, participants emphasized the need for stronger implementation of existing policies, greater collaboration, and empowering students to speak up as they push for collective action to end bullying in all its forms, including physical, verbal, and even digital.
Bullying remains a growing phenomenon in Nigerian schools, ranging from physical and verbal abuse to cyberbullying, with stakeholders warning that implementation gaps continue to undermine existing policies.
I am going to stand by you.
The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, describes bullying as a serious human rights issue requiring collective action.
At NAPTIP, we recognize that bullying is not just a behavioral change or issue, but a violation of human rights. It undermines self-worth, disrupts education, and in extreme cases can expose victims to further exploitation and abuse.
The need for youth peace clubs and school-based reporting mechanisms to be promoted to help students resolve conflicts and report cases early is at the center of this dialogue.
Bullying has become something that has been very concerning or alarming in the recent past. Recently in Edo State, you all saw what happened. International alerts followed keenly how that issue was resolved. And we started discussing with key experts in this field to be able to bring people together to discuss a way forward in terms of policy action that should be implemented that is going to help address the issues of bullying, starting with Nigerian schools.
A youth advocate, Ms. Ayotola Ilori, also highlighted the prevalence of bullying among Nigerian teenagers and called for stronger collaboration to implement policies, urging students to speak up and support victims by becoming upstanders instead of bystanders.
Well, firstly, I would like to appreciate the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Education and other stakeholders in the education sector, development partners that have come together to put together the 2025 National Anti-Bullying Policy, which I think is a way forward. And what we as young people are doing is to turn those policies into a system-level integration that can address the rate of bullying in Nigerian secondary schools.
As the dialogue session concludes, participants are united on the need for awareness, peer education, and safe reporting channels, with a communique expected to drive stronger policy implementation.
Still ahead on the news at 10, central bank and financial market dealers unveil new transaction-based benchmark to boost transparency and policy implementation in the monetary ecosystem. That's in business news. Please join us again.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.
Welcome back. It's still watching the news at 10. Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Mwaka is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Great to see you again, Millicent.
Same here. Many thanks, Ayotunde. We'll begin with some interesting news for air travellers. And the Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Captain Alex Bade Jr., has been reacting to the recurring bird strikes in the nation's aviation industry. Addressing a news conference on the newly revised condition of service for staff of the Bureau in Abuja, Captain Bade explained that the bird strike experienced by some domestic airlines is just nature taking its course. However, he explains that the Bureau is working with Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to manage the situation.
With more flying, with the tempo of flying and this rainy season,
you have more birds, migratory birds. It's now, it picked up, as you noticed, when the rain started. So you'll see more of it in the rainy season, unfortunately. But again, a bird strike is not a fatal occurrence. It is an inconvenience, and it affects the schedule. So I do sympathize with them. We'll be talking with the FAM, the Federal Airports Authority, as well, to see what they can do, since it mostly happens around the airports. But like I said, it's nature. It's just it just so happens that with more rains and more grass cutting, you have more birds looking for food around the airport environment. And the sky belongs to the birds, really. We just created airplanes to join them, so we are in their space.
And the ambassador of France to Nigeria, Marc von Bostier, has assured the Enugu State Governor, Mr. Peter Mba, of the required support to deliver clean water to residents of Enugu State. He was speaking during a courtesy call at the Government House in Enugu, where the governor shared the areas of needed support with the ambassador. He also commended Governor Mba's developmental strides, highlighting Enugu Airlines as a major milestone.
You are a transformer and an entrepreneur. And this has been detected in various areas. So I think we have to congratulate you for the way you have promised to deliver water to the people. And through the AFD, France is proud to support your vision. I think and hope, Excellency, that you consider France as a fair and trustful partner in that field. Our ultimate goal for the downstream would be to find, to outsource that to the private sector, because we think that that's the best way to offer optimal service and to make sure that you have a private sector driving that downstream. We will continue to play as the upstream providers. We will continue to generate the water, but we need a private sector participation in the downstream.
Well, let's take you to the courtroom, where the Special Offences Division of the Lagos High Court has fixed May 4th, 2026, for ruling on the admissibility of an extrajudicial statement made by Henry Omoyele, the co-defendant in the trial of the former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele. Justice Rahman Oshodi fixed the date after counsel to both the defense and the prosecution adopted their respective written addresses on the admissibility or otherwise of the statement of the second defendant during the trial within trial. Mr. Emefiele is standing trial on a 19-count charge bordering on alleged gratification, corrupt demands and abuse of office linked to large-scale financial transactions. Mr. Omoyele, his associate, faces a 3-count charge relating to the alleged unlawful acceptance of gifts while acting as an agent in transactions connected to the CBN. The charge involves alleged transactions estimated at $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira, which the prosecution claims represents serious breaches of trust and procedure. The court had earlier adjourned proceedings for the adoption of final written addresses following the conclusion of evidence, including the cross-examination of Omoyele in the trial within trial. In opposition, the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, in the Federal Ministry of Justice, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Rotimi Oyedepo, urged the court to dismiss the submissions of the defense team. The DPP further submitted that the contents of the second defendant's statement itself undermined the defense claim of coercion. Following the adoption of written addresses by all parties, Justice Oshodi adjourned the matter for ruling on May the 4th, 2026, and fixed June 26 and June 30, 2026, for the continuation of the substantive trial. And that's it from the nation's capitals. Back to Ayotunde for more on the news at 10.
Many thanks, Millicent. The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission is reviewing the Taraba State data under the nationwide data verification exercise for revenue allocation formula and principles in operation to ensure conformity with changing realities. The aim is to build a more equitable and responsible revenue allocation system that reflects reality and aspirations of the people.
A delegation of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, led by the Federal Commissioner representing Kano State, Mr. Adamu Fanda, are in Taraba State to seek the state government support in verifying and updating the data used in revenue allocation among the 3 tiers of government.
The Deputy Speaker, Taraba State Assembly.
The visit is part of the Commission's mandate to review the revenue allocation formula and principles in operation for conformity with changing realities to ensure fairness, equity, and justice in the sharing of the nation's resources.
This visit officially launches the critical national assignment of verifying and updating the data used in revenue allocation among Nigerian states and local government councils. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the revenue allocation system in Nigeria is built on a set of proxies and indices that seek to ensure fairness, equity, and justice in the sharing of the national resources.
The formula, which allocates 52.68% to the federal government, 26.72% to state government, and 20.60% to local government areas, will be verified across states to ensure accurate and credible data which reflects realities.
The ongoing review of the revenue allocation formula has reached an advanced stage, and it has become necessary to validate the integrity and accuracy of the data that will ultimately inform the distribution of the revenue across the Federation.
Governor Agbukefas assures of necessary cooperation and support for the success of the exercise.
You will get all the necessary stakeholders together for a workshop. Some of them need to understand the responsibility of this commission and what is required of them. Because I was informed that in the past, when local government chairmen and other people hear that they are coming, they will start running up helter-skelter. There is nothing to actually hide if you keep all the records right. But some of them don't even know. Some of them don't know because we hardly read the law, we hardly read anything. Everybody is interested in what they will get.
The Commission assures of professionalism, discipline, transparency, and objectivity throughout the exercise.
In Kogi, the state government has issued a strong warning to contractors handling the renovation of public secondary schools across the state, insisting on strict adherence to quality standards and contract specifications. The warning comes as the state officially flags off the renovation of 728 government-owned secondary schools under the World Bank-assisted Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment Project. Speaking at the ceremony in Lokoja, the Deputy Governor, Joel Oyibo, described the initiative as a significant step toward repositioning education in the state.
The glass hall of the Kogi State Government House is hosting dignitaries, including royal fathers, top government officials, state lawmakers, and key education stakeholders. They have converged to witness the official flag-off of the renovation of 628 public schools across the state. This statewide intervention is geared towards strengthening the educational system and creating improved learning environment for students, marking the beginning of a strategic collaboration with the World Bank-assisted Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment.
The renovation and rehabilitation of 728 government-owned schools across Kogi State represents one of the most far-reaching investments in the education sector in recent times. So this is not just a number. It is 728 opportunities to change learning environments. All of this thing is to reaffirm the commitment and unwavering support of government towards education in the area of infrastructure.
In his remarks, the Obaro of Kaba, Oba Solomon Owoniyi, called for effective monitoring to ensure contractors deliver quality work that will stand the test of time.
The number of schools you are renovating and the type of courses you have placed on those who will manage it. If I were to be a contractor, I would just withdraw. If you know that these courses, if you believe in them, I will do. If you do something in Kaba, for example, we are going to take ownership of those schools.
The Deputy Governor, who is representing Governor Usman Ododo at the ceremony, flagged off the project. He commended the development partners and urged the people to take ownership of the projects.
Today, we are not just starting construction work, we are igniting transformation. We are restoring confidence in our public schools, improving learning conditions, and creating opportunities for thousands of young people across our dear Kogi State.
The Kogi State government believes the project marks a commitment to transforming education in the state with the promise of a brighter future for students.
Business News is up next with Dominic Iwiwo.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And on business news, the Central Bank and Financial Markets Dealers Association, FMDA, have introduced the new benchmark, the Nigerian Overnight Financing Rate, NOFR, to enhance transparency, improve monetary policy transmission, and deepen the country's money market. A statement issued by the financial markets regulator says the new transaction-based benchmark replaces older benchmarks such as open buyback, OBB, and overnight rate to enhance transparency, improve price discovery, and strengthen monetary policy implementation in the money market. The CBN explains that the NOFR aligns with Nigeria's financial system with global best practices in short-term interest rate benchmarks. The Corporate Affairs Commission has announced a temporary shutdown of its online platform from today, April the 17th to the 20th, for scheduled maintenance. According to the statement issued today, the CAC says the planned maintenance is aimed at improving service delivery and user experience on its portal. The move follows reports of a cybersecurity incident which affected parts of its system. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, NDPC, has launched an investigation into the data breach amid growing concerns over its impact on digital and economic systems. Nigeria's stock market ended Friday's trading session firmly in the green as the NGX benchmark performance index breaks past the 217 points. Ladwell Ibong tells us more.
Welcome to today's market wrap. The NGX hit a historic milestone in today's session. The all-share index climbed nearly 2.5%, surging past 217,000 points, and the market cap nearing 140 trillion naira. Massive stock volumes today, and the money flows were in the direction of the high-cap stocks, Aradel, MTN Nigeria, Boa Foods, and the Tier 1 banks. Side note, the NGX banking index reached a record high level at past 226,000 points. Now, as this comes as a result of today's performance. Now, looking at the gainers, what can we say? Companies dished out rewards and investors responded. Also, very positive market breadth today. 42 gainers and 27 losers. We're definitely seeing moves on the NGX like never before with this rally in high-cap stocks. Is a tactical pause looming for equities, or should we expect a broader market rally? And those are the highlights. Will Ibang signing out.
Thank you, Will Ibang. Now let's find out how major global stock markets ended Friday's trading session. That's it on business news. Back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Dominic. Iran's foreign minister declares the Strait of Hormuz is now completely open to all commercial vessels for the remaining ceasefire period, easing maritime restrictions under coordinated routing arrangements. U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports will, however, continue until a deal is reached with Iran. Here's Simon Hughes with more international news and Around the World at 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Iran's foreign minister says the Strait of Hormuz is completely open to commercial ships for the remainder of the ceasefire. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage of all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remainder of the ceasefire, he wrote. Oil prices dropped after Iran's announcement. The confirmation came as the UK and France hosted a meeting with dozens of other countries to discuss freedom of navigation in the strait. Earlier, a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon began with celebrations and fireworks in Beirut. The youngest son of Zimbabwe's late former leader, Robert Mugabe, has pleaded guilty to pointing a firearm and illegally being in South Africa. Bellarmine Mugabe entered guilty pleas to the 2 charges after he was arrested in February following the shooting of a 23-year-old man at his home in Johannesburg. The 28-year-old has been held in custody alongside his co-accused and appeared at the court in Alexandra on Friday. Lawyers for the men told the court they were prepared to return to their native Zimbabwe at their own expense if they do not receive a custodial sentence. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have spoken to survivors and emergency responders from the Bondi Beach shooting on the 4th day of their visit to Australia. Volunteer lifeguards and community leaders met the couple at the beach in Sydney, where 15 people were killed and 40 injured at a Hanukkah event in December. The couple have been visiting eastern Australian cities, including Canberra and Melbourne. Prince Harry and Meghan arrived at Bondi Surf Bathers Lifesaving Club on Friday, where they spoke to parents who both survived the shootings while shielding their children. The 4 astronauts of Artemis 2 say their mission gave the world a sense of hope and unity at a time when both feel in short supply. At their first NASA news conference since returning last Friday, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen said they left as friends and came back as something closer, bound by an experience that no earthly language can fully contain.
We were 250,000 miles away from our home planet. We saw the far side of the moon. We saw the sun go behind the moon and create this unbelievable eclipse with a halo. At that moment, I turned to Victor in the spacecraft and I said, I don't think the human mind has evolved to the point of being able to understand what we are looking at, and he fully agreed. We were living in such close quarters that we would I would say crawl all over each other, but we would utilize each other as a single entity to get the job done at all times. And then we would just hand the baton across. Whoever had the operational lead would take it, they would run with it, and then we would come back together as a crew. It was the most fluid and well-supported thing you could ever imagine.
Well, re-entry is the most spectacular part of any human spaceflight. It is truly, in every way, coming back to a plane. It is not landing a plane. Windows on Orion and Integrity did not char over. We watched the entire re-entry, and it was spectacular. The plasma ball that we were inside of got as bright as an arc welder to the point where you couldn't even look at it. We were rumbling, we were feeling the G's, we were hearing it in each other's voices, and just trying to take in every single sight, every sound, every sense to be able to carry it back to Earth with us, because what it taught us is about ourselves. Nothing is more precious than human life, and we all feel that.
Rescuers plan to use air cushions in their latest attempt to free a humpback whale that has been stranded off Germany's northern coast for weeks. The whale, nicknamed Timmy by local media, was first spotted in the Baltic Sea, far from its natural habitat at the beginning of March, and is currently stuck in a shallow coastal area off the island of Pole. A private company plans to refloat the injured mammal from the sea floor by its flippers and onto a tarp attached to a tugboat. And Naekgu, the 2-year-old wolf who broke loose from a South Korean zoo and captured the nation's attention, has finally been captured following a 9-day-long search. Naekgu was captured near an expressway on Friday, according to the zoo he escaped from. Authorities said upon a medical examination, Naekgu's pulse and body temperature were normal. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. And just before sports news, 7 suspects are now in police custody following a kidnapping attack along the Ayere-Kaba Road in Kogi State, prompting an intensified security crackdown. The incident, which occurred around 8:30 p.m. on April the 13th, involved armed assailants who ambushed a Toyota Hiace bus operated by Chisco Transport Company, and the vehicle was en route from Lagos to Abuja when it was intercepted in Kaba local government. Security forces have rescued one of the victims, identified as 56-year-old Adun Julius, and the bus has also been recovered and is currently undergoing forensic analysis as part of ongoing investigations. Kogi State Commissioner of Police Naziru Bello Kankarufi confirmed that the arrested suspects are cooperating with the state's Criminal Investigation Department. Meanwhile, a joint security team comprising police, military and other agencies has launched sustained bushcombing operations to help track down the remaining perpetrators and rescue other abducted passengers. Authorities have called on relatives of the victims to report to the SCID headquarters in Lokoja, particularly the anti-kidnapping unit, to assist with some identification. In sports news, Pep Guardiola has accepted Manchester City's Premier League title bid will be finished if they lose to Arsenal in Sunday's crunch clash between the top 2 teams. Arsenal's 9-point lead was cut to 6 after their shock defeat at home to Bournemouth, and was followed by Man City emphatically winning at Chelsea last weekend, with Guardiola's side having a game in hand. Man City also defeated Arsenal in last month's League Cup final, although Guardiola insists the Gunners, who have reached the Champions League quarter-finals without losing the game, cannot be taken lightly. Mikel Arteta has vowed that Arsenal will play to win in Sunday's Premier League title showdown at Man City. Arsenal travel to the Etihad holding a 6-point lead over the Citizens, who have a game in hand as they seek their first league crown in 22 years. The Gunners have not won at City since January 2015, and the draw will ensure the title race remains solely in their hands with 5. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu has assented to the 2026 appropriation bill of 68.32 trillion naira and approved the extension of the 2025 budget implementation from March the 31st to June the 30th this year. And the IMF has warned that Africa's recovery is threatened by rising Middle East tensions and urged strong policy action, while Nigeria's Finance Minister Wale Edun says buffers are being built against the shocks. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Have a good night and have a great weekend.